Dynamite!
It's Dynamite!
Wednesday night Dynamite!
So Dynamite!
This is awesome! It's a big, this and that, this and this! Hey everybody, have a great time!
It's Dynamite!
I'm not one of these f***ing goof podcasters out there. I am Don Tony, Wednesday night Dynamite! Be good if I unmute it, right? I am limitless. I am limitless. I mean, you know, it's cool. Keith Lee retains. He hulks up. He gets the win over Damian Priest. Kind of a fast match, but I enjoyed it. But at the end, where he's not, I am limitless. I am limitless. I don't know. What's going on, everybody? Sorry for that 10 seconds of mute. See, when the intro music is playing, I usually mute my side. I'll grab a quick beverage if I have to burp or something. I don't want anybody to hear it. Sometimes I forget to unmute it. But it is episode 32 of Wednesday Night Dynamite. Wow, we're batting 1,000 today with all the screw-ups. I am Don Tony. You know what? One thing that I can't say that I screwed up was this. These were my original predictions for the TNT Championship tournament. In the finals, it would be Cody versus Archer. And if you follow my shows the last 2 weeks, I even added a little bit of the Rocky IV, situation where Ivan Drago kills Apollo Creed and Rocky is holding Apollo Creed and he's dead and Ivan Drago, I must break you. If he dies, he dies. Did you see Cody holding Dustin in his arms a la Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed? Loved it. By the way, I see a lot of people are loving this shirt. Hopefully you were able to see that. The reason why I'm wearing this shirt today is because it just blows me away on how time flies. Yesterday was the 15-year anniversary of Chris Candido passing away. 15 years. That's just mind-boggling, in my opinion. I mean, of course, it doesn't feel like yesterday. But, I got to know Chris Candido a little bit, considered him a friend, albeit a very, very tiny one. Let's not exaggerate. But it was one of those, you remember, you have certain things throughout life and it's usually a tragedy. You remember where you were, you remember what you were doing, you remember what you were wearing, maybe what you were eating. That was one of those nights and I'll never forget it, man. It was a pretty nice day. I'd say around maybe 6:30 at night, 7 at the most. I drove out to Long Island in my old white Lincoln Mark 7 I used to have. I remember my sunroof was all messed up. The glass was broken. But I wanted to go to my friend's restaurant. He had happy hour. I figured, I'd go for a couple of drinks, hang out, eat something. So I go to Sunrise Highway. I park my car. And right before I walk into the restaurant, my cell phone rings. And it's Frank Goodman, the masked maniac. And he's hysterically crying on the phone. And I said, Frank, what's wrong? And he's like, Chris is gone. And for a second, I didn't think, which Chris are you talking about? Because why would you think Chris Candido would die in his early 30s? And he said, Chris Candido. And we got all the details as far as, the aneurysm, if you remember, he broke his leg at TNA right before this, flew back to the States. And I tell you, man, one story that I always tell, I've always told this, is when I was working for XPW and they were bringing in Chris Candido to face Shane Douglas on one of their events. I remember clear as day picking up Sonny and Chris Candido from their hotel, and I remember Sonny was a little hungry, so he went to some drive-through somewhere, and Chris got in the car with crutches. He couldn't walk. He had like a torn groin muscle or something, and they get in the car, and I'm saying to myself, how is this guy going to wrestle later on in the night against Shane Douglas? And, basically helped him in the building, sat down with him, and he started telling me on how WWF at the time wanted Chris Candido to possibly be a trainer. This was right... he was telling us back in the mid-'90s they wanted him to be a trainer, and they wanted him to help some people up and coming like Rock and others, and he felt he still had years left in him. And sure enough, when it got close to ring time, you see this guy just in the back, like just grunting through the pain. Motherfucker taped his side up, and if you ever go back and you watch the match, you'll see how he's heavily taped on his midsection. And basically did that because he had a torn groin muscle. And when the match came on, he worked his ass off, man. It's just the memory that I will always have about him. And I want to give a special shout out to Johnny Candido and all his friends and his family, because he is absolutely sorely missed. So I wanted to pay a little tribute because, my God, 15 years yesterday, And look, I don't want to throw any shade towards TNA, even though it's not in business anymore technically. Even though last night we had a little surprise in Impact Wrestling. If anybody heard my Monday show, I talked about, hey, WWE's doing the interim Cruiserweight Championship. Maybe Impact Wrestling could do the same with Tessa Blanchard not able to perform. I don't want to take no credit because I know that triggers the haters, but lo and behold, what do we have here? That was from last night's Rebellion. They knew, I consider it more like a Legends title, to be honest with you. But, hey, it's to take a little bit of the diversion off of Tessa Blanchard. I know we're jumping back and forth a little bit, but, I'm kind of glad that they did not strip Tessa Blanchard of the title, because I could just imagine, everybody who, when she first won that title, we know all the controversy with La Rosa Negra. And, man, you look at her reign from then until now. Sure, a lot of it's been, derailed because of COVID. But, man, if they would have taken the title off of her right now, people till infamy will talk about how Tessa Blanchard had one of the worst championships of all time. And some of that inflated because of emotion. So I like the fact that they did not take the title off of her. But since TNA is no longer in business... that's Moose, by the way, Eric. That's not D'Lo Brown. By the way, how many of you out there thought tonight Lou Ferrigno was Lanny Poffo? When I saw that with the Manitoba Melee, I was like, is that Lou Ferrigno? No. Why would he be on AEW? That's got to be Lanny Poffo. That's got to be Kane. No, it was Lou Ferrigno, man. And by the way, of course, Tony Khan wasn't going to put the list up. And AEW is like, could you name all of these stars that appeared on the Melee today? I actually did all the research. I watched it again. I paused it. I watched it. I paused it. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of these C-lister stars, Gabriel Iglesias, of course. But, I had to look up some of these people like, who the fuck are you? I mean, yeah, Jay and Silent Bob. We'll get into the list a little bit later. But since TNA is no longer in business, the one thing that I will always remember with the passing of Chris Candido, of course, I was honored to be part of a match for the second annual memorial show. And we raised money, if you remember. And you know what? I want to mention this because Dave Meltzer gets a lot of bullshit from a lot of people out there. If you think I'm lying, you go to the Wayback Machine website. Go to 2005 April, search wrestling-news.com, and you'll see the articles that I put up at the time. I raised about $3,000 that was going to go to, the proceeds with Chris Candido. And we're not going to get into all that right now. But the thing was that They made this shirt that the proceeds was going to go to, and it was Dave Meltzer who donated to me 100 Observer newsletters that were paying tribute to Chris Candido. So for all of you out there that don't like Meltzer, all right, sure, he's got an absolute favoritism to Japanese wrestling and AEW, but honestly, the guy does have a really good heart. I didn't ask for the newsletters, but basically I wanted to put something together that if you contributed X amount of dollars, you would get a shirt. And I wanted to add something else to it. And it was Dave Meltzer that approached me and said, listen, what's your address? And I said, I gave it to him. I said, what's up? He says, I'm going to send you a box of newsletters. You give them away with the shirts also. True story. True story. And like I said, me, when I always tell stories, I usually have proof to back it up. So this is another one you could actually look up as well. Shout out to everybody tuning live. And I didn't forget about the one other TNA memory I got to bring up in a minute. But shout out to everybody who is tuning in live right now, even on the replay, for all my friends and family in the chat and the super chat. And the super chat kicks off with this random question. What school did I go to? Anthony Diaz wants to know that. High school, St. Francis Prep. That's where I went. But anyway, the one memory I'll always have with TNA as well is when Chris Candido had passed. There was a lot of tributes being made to the passing of Chris Candido. And I remember the TNA Wrestling gave Tammy, Sonny, gave her, I believe it was a ham. I think it was like a ham, that you slice, what you have with cheese and rye bread and mustard. Usually you do like a basket with flowers. I don't know about fruit. Maybe you do fruit for someone who's like in their 70s and 80s. What a beautiful basket. I'm going to bite into this. A fucking ham. Meat. They gave her meat. Meat. I'll always remember that. Anthony's asking me and everybody else, wait, we're going past Velveteen Dream? Unfortunately, I don't have toilet bowl flush sound effects, but if you remember this show last Wednesday, I got into the Velveteen Dream situation because it had just broken that early that day. Last week, I said I didn't think it passed the smell test. And over the weekend, I had a nice heated debate with Anthony Missionary Thomas, a wrestling soup. Very respectful debate, but we're on the opposite spectrum of Velveteen Dream. The only thing that we agreed on is that if Velveteen Dream was actually having chats online with fans, it's probably not wise to do it at 3:30 in the morning, especially with people who are age. Not saying about anything sexual or anything like that, but probably isn't the wisest thing to do to be having late night chats with fans, because fans lie too. I mean, come on. I remember when I was a teenager, we would go to a club. Hey, how old are you? I'm 18. And then the drinking age turned to 21. How old are you? I'm 21. Of course we had to show fake ID, but we lied because we wanted to get into a club. We lied because we wanted to do this. So some people lie as well. You really never could tell. And later on, I will talk about Jim Cornette's comments about the Velveteen Dream situation. I tell you, I had to get the exact quote. Number one, just to make sure he actually said this, because I said, man, I don't know. I don't even know how you can, screw this up and say the wrong thing, but I'll get into that later. But I will say this. Last Wednesday, I said it didn't pass the smell test for me. This weekend, I said it didn't pass the smell test for me. I have some additional video that I'm going to share with all of you later on that convinced me that it didn't pass the smell test. Remember last week? Oh, police report filed. Yup. Every time there is a bullshit news story floating around from now on Twitter, instead of calling people goofs, I'm going to just write 3 letters, YUP. We'll use the exclamation point. The latest one, WWE offered pretty much everybody their release if they want to go. Yeah, just like when the radicals left. Yup. Notice how everybody's sources apparently got coronavirus, that nobody has any information anymore. Yup. Yeah. They offer to release everybody. Yup. But yet, when they had the conference call last week, that was something that shouldn't have been revealed to the stockholders. Yup. Because telling your stockholders that the focal point of your business, which is entertainment, you offered everybody, hey, you could go home if you want. You could quit. You could get out of your contract. Yup. My God, how stupid are people online? Seriously, yup. I mean, you don't think conference call, you're an entertainment company, it's focused around your roster, you don't tell your stockholders, well, last week, because of coronavirus, we gave everybody the option to leave, but everybody stayed. That wasn't mentioned in a conference call because it didn't fucking happen. Yup. But when I get into the additional Velveteen Dream stuff later on, yup, I promise I won't keep doing that. I honestly think, without a shadow of a doubt, we could finally flush the toilet of some of these people out there that are just looking for attention. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. Especially if anybody, it's funny. WWE hasn't responded yet. And then today, look what they announced for next week. A pedophile sending nudes 3 o'clock in the morning to a 15-year-old. Look, next week. How could they do it? Well, they're just jobbing him out. And then they're going to let him go. Yeah, that's right. Guy sending nudes to a kid. Yeah, well, he's in the middle of a storyline. Let him lose the match. Then you're fired. You fucking dense. Seriously, you're that stupid? This is what happens when stupid people try to talk smart on social media. They either try to talk smart like they know shit, or they realize they're wrong. They can't just flat out admit it, and they try to, twist it around and change things around and this and that. I loved last week. Triple H. Happy 25th anniversary. Ring the fucking bells. It's great. Yeah. I praised him. A lot of people praised him. Well, some people had to throw their, nonsense remarks. And I totally respect people that never liked Triple H. It was many years I didn't like him either. But it was funny watching a certain group of people who were dissing Triple H and got virtually no attention on social media. And then, a couple hours later, you can't deny what he's done for wrestling. And seriously? Yup. So from now on, you get some goof online that just writes dopey shit that is just made up, that doesn't make sense. Just respond back to him and just write, yup. Yeah, we filed a police report, yup. 1980, and you know why I keep saying that? Because in 1984, there was that phrase, where's the beef? Remember little Martha or whatever her name was, Bertha, where's the beef? Then it was 2014, Jeff Jarrett, the boom. Where's the boom? So now I started a new phrase. Not where's the beef or where's the boom. It's where's the police report. Remember last week? We don't know if it was really him. He might have been hacked. Well, everybody, it wasn't me. Police report filed. Yup. Ain't no fucking police report filed. I tell you, man, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. The problem is that nobody thinks for themselves anymore. They're more concerned as far as how they come across on social media. A lot of people can't handle, going against the grain and getting the criticism. They try to talk on both sides of their mouth. Yup. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So, yup. I promise everybody I'll stop. By the way, Friday night, if you're not doing anything, right after SmackDown, if you want to come right back here for the Don Tony show, I will be up here. I believe Mish will be joining me as well. And to celebrate 10,000 subscribers, looks like we're doing the One Chip Challenge. So we're going to do it live on the show. I am scared because I had diverticulitis surgery a year ago and I had my gallbladder taken out. And I have tons of people that are telling me you're making a big mistake. Well, we'll do it live. If I make a huge mistake, a bad, miscalculated error, I'm sure some people out there will absolutely love, seeing yours truly in pain. Pain. Mr. T, remember? What are your prediction? Prediction? Pain. That's what's going to happen Friday. Pain. Speaking of pain, so we got the finals for the TNT tournament. Lance Archer versus Cody. Yeah, let me also make this clear. A lot of people that are watching this right now made the same predictions as yours truly. I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer. All right, it just felt like it was common sense. You could see AEW, the way they were going with this. And the telltale sign, as far as Lance Archer, was last week. Cody on a speakerphone with Dustin. If I don't beat Sabian, whatever his name is, I'll retire. But yet no retirement angle with Lance Archer, the guy who's been calling out your brother. So the fact that he teases a retirement against Kip Sabian, and then that retirement quickly goes away. You want to impress me, AEW, fucking make the retirement angle with Lance Archer too. Oh no, that ain't fucking happening. So you can kind of see this a mile away. I know a lot of people were rooting for Darby Allin to get the win tonight, but I liked the match, Darby Allin versus Cody, which opened up AEW today. But the ending was really, really ridiculously stupid. The fact that this was pre-taped, I honestly don't understand why they didn't just redo the end of that match. For anybody that did not see that match, and there was something even more dumb that went down with this as well, that I know a lot of you out there already know what I said about it. Cody goes for the coffin drop, all right? Darby, I think, gets his knees up fine. No big deal. So immediately after Cody gets injured, or supposedly injured from the coffin drop, Darby Allin climbs the top rope to give his coffin drop, and he nails it on Cody. But when he nails it on Cody, he falls backwards. So Cody kind of has him as almost like a roll up, and Cody gets the win. Now the funny thing about it was, you see these goofs on social media like, well, maybe Darby Allin lost his wind. Anybody out there ever lose your wind? That happened to me a couple of times playing football. I got tackled without equipment, and I laid on the floor. And all I remember, this hasn't happened to me since I was a teenager, but when I got the wind knocked out of me, this is what all I remember from it. Couldn't breathe. I was standing there making noises because I was trying to get. That's what happens when you don't catch your breath. Darby Allin's just laying backwards, almost like a girl in a porn chick that like lifts her legs up and is just waiting to be hammered. He hits the coffin drop. He lays backwards. He's not even trying to kick out. The referee's counting 3, and he's just laying there like this. Man, what a horrible finish to that match. You pre-recorded. Do it over. Somebody in the back says, whoa. 1 second. How do you fucking leave that? Made Darby Allin look like a total matarazzo on that, and it was a great match too. But here's what pissed me off more than anything else. May 23rd. That's where we're going to crown the new TNT Champion. All right. May 23rd, Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Let me get this straight, Tony. Let me get this straight, Mr. Khan, sir. You made a title in tribute to the TNT channel, the TNT network, TNT that hosts Dynamite, TNT that is trying to get your product to the next level. You make a title for TNT, and you're going to crown your first champion not on TNT. Seriously, come on. How does that pass anything? To me, that's almost as bad as Lagana letting Cornette's bucket of chicken thing pass through onto NW. How does that make TV? And because everything's pre-recorded tonight, it's not like somebody gets into Tony's ear. Hey, Tony, shut up. Don't bring up Double or Nothing anymore. The more I think about it, that's not so goody-goody. Tony, no, it's pre-recorded. They made their bed. They had to lie in it today. Now, if you ask me, Tony Khan could bail himself out of this one. Tony Khan should go on social media tomorrow or the day after, sometime this week. Look, hopefully social media is thinking the same as me. And he crowned it, the first ever TNT champion. Not TNT. Hopefully social media bursts with that. Tony Khan should play good cop, bad cop. He should go on social media tomorrow or a day or two and say, the fans have spoken out. They want to see the first ever TNT champion crowned on TNT. So we're going to give the fans what they want. So instead of Double or Nothing, we will crown the first champion on TNT. Do a rematch. Do a rematch with Archer and Cody on Double or Nothing. Do something else. The fact that you announce a title, that's like announcing the first ever women's title and men are gonna compete in it. What an unforced, stupid era. Seriously, what a stupid, this is just my opinion. Maybe some of you out there disagree with me. I don't have the video here. I actually saved it. I'll have to share it Friday. But, future WWE Hall of Famer Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, that's letting WWE get away with all this. Remember what I said a week or two ago, that any wrestling fed could do stuff in Florida right now if they wanted to. Next week, AEW returns to live shows in Florida. DeSantis was on video today, and I hope everybody starts to pick up on this. Whenever DeSantis is put in a corner about allowing WWE to do what they're doing right now, he immediately shifts and brings up other sports. Last week, it was baseball. Today, it was auto racing or this or that. Like, he keeps putting it, but it was funny because there was no mention of AEW. But remember my prediction from Monday also. I think the first live crowd event that returns for probably AEW is going to be taking place outdoors. You will see, and DeSantis today said that he thinks that if everything stays on pace, he can't see why wrestling events don't return to some form of crowds in June or July. That's a month or two away. That's not that long. So when you talk about May 23rd, that is a little bit close as far as the AEW with Florida. So I don't think you could possibly return that soon with some live fans. But I don't know if it's because of the agreements with the pay-per-view companies, but I think if AEW was smart, if we're in the month of May and it's getting closer and closer, that you could have some type of fans, some number of fans that could actually go to your show. Maybe you consider postponing Double or Nothing until the middle of June, and then you have some fans at the event. And remember my ticket idea from Monday. There's a couple of things you could do. When you buy tickets through Ticketmaster or something, you want to buy two, it automatically reserves 4. Because you buy 2 tickets for you and your significant other, and the reason why it actually tallies 4 is because the 2 tickets you're going to sit in, 1 empty seat to the right of you, 1 empty seat to the left of you. And that happens. You buy a set of 4 tickets, then you actually get 6 because 1 seat to the right of you will be empty, 1 seat to the left of you will be empty. Another idea is what I said last week and on Monday, drive-ins. A lot of places are talking about bringing back drive-in movies. Maybe you do that with wrestling. Put the fucking ring in the field or whatever it is. You have all the cars. They can be all parked all around it. And as long as they don't get in the cars and they sit just with their family or friends that actually went to the event, you could have concessions come up to the car. The only problem with Florida is that when it's 90 degrees, I don't know how many people are really going to be wanting to sit in freaking hot cars. Then you start turning on, you're blasting the air conditioner, and you got all that carbon monoxide all around. So it doesn't work in every state out there. But we'll see what happens. But I tell you, man, the TNT Championship crowned on a pay-per-view and not TNT. To me, that was just absolutely stupid, in my honest opinion. So, as we opened up, I showed everybody that Moose has the TNA Heavyweight Championship. You know, what I talked about Monday with the interim title. Yesterday, Rebellion was on Access TV. It was okay. I mean, to me, it felt more like an episode of Impact than anything else. The match results, for anybody that's interested, because this was night 2 of Rebellion. Chris Bay over Rohit Raju, Suicide, and Trey Miguel. I don't think there was any dispute there. Chris Bay, they made a lot of hype with his return to Impact Wrestling, so they're going to give him a nice push without a doubt. Joseph P. Ryan over Cousin Jake. Rosemary over Jessica Havoc. And by the way, the woman who was in attendance, and everybody was wondering, like, Navia, I think that's how you pronounce her name. That is Beth Christ, who was sitting at ringside. But I don't know if people realize that the name Navia is the word heaven spelled backwards. Some people may not be aware of that. And then the main event was Moose beating Michael Elgin and Hernandez, and Moose came out with the TNA Heavyweight Championship. And this was, to give a little bit of a diversion, since Tessa Blanchard is not there right now. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is, are we going to end up with Tessa Blanchard versus Moose to maybe unify those titles? I don't like that idea at all. I'm a fan of Tessa Blanchard. I gave her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt with the stuff that happened that time, even though, La Rosa Negra was very convincing, and I think she definitely heard what she thought she heard. But still, I don't really want to see Tessa Blanchard against Moose. That's a little bit too much suspension of disbelief, in my opinion. So, now, if you're interested, you had Matt and Nick Jackson on their Being the Elite. I think it's episode 201. They were teasing the revival. They were looking in the clouds and saw the FTR. I'm still going to stick with what I was saying. I think the revival are better suited for NWA. I know some people might think it's a fantasy match of the Young Bucks versus the Revival. I know it may be a match that both tag teams would love to have against each other. I'm sorry, man. I've said this many times before. It's nothing against the Revival. But, I've never seen the ratings draw between the two. And when you think of Young Bucks and fantasy matches, you usually look at people with the high-flying style. When you have an absolute complete ground game, you better really have some. I think people are more interested in hearing the revival shit on WWE and Vince McMahon than the actual match, because I don't know where people think it's going to turn into an unbelievable, 6-star match. So I think NWA is really where the revival should be considered going to. And, we have to wait a little bit and see what happens with the NWA, because right now, with coronavirus still here, there are a lot of things in limbo. Now, kudos for NWA, who are putting, footage online, and we talked about last week, with some of the content that they had up there. But this week they talked about the rebirth of the NWA. They focused on Nick Aldis and Tim Storm. Last week, they focused on Camille, which I thought was excellent. So, they're trying to keep the name out there. But right now, there's not much else going on. It's really just WWE and AEW. And that's why a majority of the news out there is focused on those two promotions. But I'll tell you this much. Next week, there is no excuse why NXT does not win in the ratings. Now, remember, after all those consecutive weeks, it was yours truly and I think JD from New York. I think we were the only two podcasters that predicted NXT was going to win and win by a hair, and that's exactly what happened. What they're hyping up next week, now granted, AEW is going to be live. And, once again, all these websites, all their sources have coronavirus right now because no spoilers are leaking out. No match results. No nothing. No nothing. Everything now with WWE is pre-recorded. Next week's NXT is already in the bag. It's either taped today or was going to be taped tomorrow. Watch. No spoilers come out. Where are all the sources? Seriously. So, but next week, AEW is advertising live that MJF is going to be returning. Frankie Kazarian is going to take on Jon Moxley, which, all right, whatever. I have no problem with that match, even though we know the outcome already. And they're also advertising Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy. So that is an interesting, entertaining match. And it's solid. Don't get me wrong. It is definitely solid. But to be honest with you, what they hyped up next week for NXT, and I put the list here, number one, Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, and Scarlett Bordeaux are going to be appearing next week. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. Next week, we're having Charlotte versus Io Shirai for the NXT Women's Championship, which I know a lot of people are not happy with Charlotte being the champion, but I think, her right now being a champion is a better status than Rhea Ripley. I don't know if Io Shirai is going to get this title. To be honest with you, I kind of feel like it may not happen yet, but Charlotte versus Io Shirai is a big deal. Next week also, we have Finn Balor confronting his attacker, and we have Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream. And I might even be leaving something out. So think about that. Cole versus Dream. Finn Balor confronting his attacker, which obviously is good. They're going to make it into a pretty big storyline. Hopefully it's not, they don't do something with Walter yet, but it could very well be. Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux making an appearance. Charlotte, Io Shirai. I mean, that's solid lineup right there. So I'll be honest, again, I think NXT, if they don't win the ratings next week, an AEW show it's going to be above average because they know what's on the horizon next week with NXT. But remember what I said, NXT is already taped. So once it's in the bag, it's in the bag. AEW now has a week to plan accordingly because their show is going to be live. So AEW really needs to pull out some stops next week to go against NXT. I have a feeling that next week's, it's a little unfair because it's empty arenas. But I think since we've had the empty arenas, next week's wrestling on Wednesday night might feature combined the best wrestling that we have enjoyed so far in the empty arena. I wouldn't put on a level as WrestleMania because, the Boneyard and Firefly Funhouse match, I mean, those were creative geniuses being put together. But I think next week is going to be a blockbuster Wednesday. That combined rating with the two Feds next week really should be on the level, not week one, because week one, the curiosity factor, but it should be one of the highest combined ratings yet for the shows. So we'll see what happens next week. Now, I know I'm going a little bit out of place over here, but I want to just bring up a couple of things. It's funny when somebody is confused online and someone clears it up and they just leave it confused because they just don't want to acknowledge that, somebody got it right and they got it wrong. But I was amazed at how many people, when Mauro Ranallo said that one thing that WWE does not lack, and that's TP, TP, like, Beavis and Butthead, TP for my bungle. I can't tell you how many people out there thought he meant TP as in toilet paper. Mauro Ranallo said that right after Tom Phillips cut a promo. I didn't even think there was a question. When Mauro Ranallo said that WWE is never short on TP, he wasn't talking about toilet paper. TP as the initials of Tom Phillips. So I don't know why people were so confused about that. Another thing, remember Monday? Remember one of the segments on Raw that we just thought it was, blah at best. It was MVP coming out and announcing that Shane Thorne and Brandon Vink, ballin', he's going to be their manager. For some reason, I got a splitting freaking headache. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I just got a horrible headache right now. Sorry. My apologies. Might try to end this show a little bit sooner. No, I will give everybody their money's worth, but I may have to end it a little sooner. But, Benjamin Morrow said it at the very beginning of the show. So, but anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, so last week, this past Monday, we were talking about Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne. MVP is going to be their manager. And one complaint that I have been having with Raw, and I talked about it on Monday in detail, is you bring in some names that are featured at NXT, they show up on Raw, and more times than not, they're squashed like a grape. So Monday, and here's a case where you got stuff, I guess, I don't even know how they did this out of place, but last week, or this past Monday, MVP is going to manage Shane Thorne. Okay, cool. Today we have Shane Thorne come out, and he takes on Dexter Loomis. And Dexter Loomis basically, beats him handedly. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. They just had 2 days ago MVP trying to boost up the value of these two guys. And I even joked Monday and I said Ricochet and Cedric Alexander should have looked at each other and started laughing hysterically. Shane Thorne, Brandon Vink. Not only was there no mention of MVP taking them under his tutelage, but Shane Thorne, look what happened on Monday. Oh, we're hyping these people up. And then today, he loses. Oh, yeah, I did get a haircut today. Yeah. I wasn't joking when I said on social media earlier, man. I don't want to get political on the shows. Friday, if you guys want to talk a little bit politics, I always will. But I know on these shows you predominantly want wrestling. But I'll be honest with you. My hair, I hadn't gotten a haircut in 2 months. I never got that $1,200 Trump bailout, handout, whatever you want to call it. I applied for an SBA loan about 5 weeks ago. I never heard nothing back. My fiance applied for unemployment and pandemic unemployment back in March. She's heard nothing. And I have insurance customers canceling. And I'm losing money in my office. And I realized that for the last 6 weeks, I'm abiding by every fucking thing that the state is saying and doing this, doing that, and doing this. But yet it seems like, okay, we're doing everything to help the sick, and deservingly so. But for the people that aren't sick, the people, it's like nothing is happening. So I'm kind of fed up with it. And I'm not a child. I know if I keep my distance from people, not just 6 feet, but 10 feet, 20 feet if I could, if I wear a mask, if I don't cough in people's faces, they don't cough in my faces, we spray Lysol in the fucking room before we enter it, the chances of me getting coronavirus is probably less than getting fucking something else. So I called my friend up today, and I said to him, hey, could you cut my hair? And he's like, yeah, if you want to come by. So I went by his house. I wore a mask. He wore a mask. We sprayed the room with Lysol beforehand. He wore gloves, and he cut my hair. And he's a hairstylist, fuck that, man. Seriously. I mean, I've been working 4 jobs since all this shit happened to try to put everything together. And I'm like, not for nothing, man. But, I can't even see my parents. And I'm going to have people shit on me because I asked my friend to cut my hair. Not only did he cut my hair today, but tomorrow, no joke. And I'm going to take pictures probably while I'm there. Unless some, older Italian guys are like, what the fuck you taking pictures for? We're supposed to go to a coffee shop. It's not open for business, but the back room is going to be open. We're going to be playing probably Ramino, and they're going to make some pastries and some coffee, and we're all getting together, and we're having a fucking card game, So everybody in that room, nobody's sick right now. I'm not seeing my family anyway. I'm social distancing. I'm fucking going out and I'm playing cards and having coffee tomorrow. Cuomo and de Blasio could suck my dick, to be honest with you. I ain't a fucking child. I mean, to make it sound like, I understand, but when I hear this shit that, we're gonna, everything that we did for the last 6 weeks is gonna be wasted if you gotta just stick it out a little bit more. No, 6 weeks ago, people weren't wearing masks. 6 weeks ago, people weren't used to social distancing. 6 weeks ago, people weren't using hand sanitizer. 6 weeks ago, people weren't washing their hands like crazy. People 6 weeks ago weren't wiping down their groceries. 6 weeks ago, people weren't fucking changing their clothes 2 times in a day. 6 weeks ago, people weren't keeping things handy like Lysol and stuff in case somebody sneezes. 6 fucking weeks later, we're doing all of that. So if it's that fucking contagious, and after doing all of that, then fuck it, man. Seriously. Ain't stupid. Ramino is like an Italian poker game. So you can Google it and you'll see. So that's the deal. I'm still not seeing my family. Next Sunday for Mother's Day, I'm probably going over there. If it's a nice day, I'll sit on one side of the fucking yard, she'll sit on the other side of the yard. We'll be close enough that I don't have to say, Happy Mother's Day, Ma! No, I'll be close enough we could talk, but I'll probably be like 30 feet away. I'll spend some time with her, I give her some flowers, and then I go home. We ain't fucking children, people. So, anyway, Shane Thorne, he kind of got squashed from Dexter Loomis, but give Shane Thorne credit, man. Go back and watch when Dexter Loomis beat him, when he put his finisher. You don't see this that often, but I always remember, this is a weird thing to think about now, but I always remember when Waylon Mercy wrestled Jeff Hardy once. I don't know if it was 1995, it might have been around 95. But I remember Waylon Mercy put his finisher on Jeff Hardy. This is when Jeff Hardy first came in, and nobody knew who he was yet. And he was selling, like he had like crazy eyes, like, the fuck, what is this guy doing to me? Like this fear in the eyes, sold the move beautifully. Go look, search it out. This week in wrestling history, I did 2 weeks ago, I purposely screenshotted that moment and put it as part of my synopsis. That's how beautiful it was. Shane Thorne tonight gave me flashbacks of that night. When Shane Thorne, his eyes as he was going out, like he had this look of desperation and concern to try to get out of this move. And I'm not a big fan of Shane Thorne yet, but how he sold Dexter Loomis's finisher tonight, I thought it was excellent. And it's sad because almost every podcaster out there won't even mention that. By the way, anybody else out there feel like me that Dexter Loomis's theme music might be my favorite theme music right now as far as current roster? I don't know, man. I'm kind of enjoying Dexter Loomis's music. So, what else do we get today? Oh, Mia Yim. As you can see, I'm kind of bringing up NXT first. We get it out of the way quick. We don't have much else to talk about with that. But Charlotte Flair beating Mia Yim in about 7.5 minutes. This was really, it was a fun match. It was a competitive match. I don't think anybody out there ever thought, Mia Yim was possibly, maybe some people think Io Shirai distracts Charlotte. She's not looking. Mia Yim gets a roll-up. It's a non-title match, blah, 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 blah. And Charlotte Flair, that intensifies the heat between Io Shirai and Mia. No, we didn't get anything like that. Charlotte Flair gets the win. That's that. But it was a competitive match. Mia Yim does not lose any stock, even though she lost to Charlotte today. But let's see what happens next week with Io Shirai and Charlotte. Adam Cole cutting the backstage promo that he's going to take on Velveteen Dream next week. Yup. Man, I can't wait to just finally flush those matarats. What was the term I used? And someone out there, could you pull up my YouTube preview today? I said something chasers. I'm forgetting the first word. Somebody could look up my YouTube preview tonight. It was something chasers. That's what these people are on social media. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But clout chasers, yes, clout chasers. That's what these people were last week. If you've never heard of the term clout chasers, even though I just drew a blank, I think because of the headache, look up clout chasers. That's what this looks like it's going to end up being. But anyway, One segment we got tonight, I tell you honestly, mixed feelings from what I see out there. Anybody that missed NXT last night? Well, because now most of you are going to see this on Thursday morning. The Newly Bros show. Byron Saxton kind of being a little bit like that guy from Fresh Prince. Tells his name. I was never a big fan of Fresh Prince. He does that dance, what the hell was his name? Oh my God, Banks, Carlton Banks, right? Carlton Banks. Byron Saxton doing his best Carlton Banks. I don't know, man. Unfortunately now we realize that Timothy Thatcher is the tag team champion with Matt Riddle under the circumstances. I don't like the fact that they didn't do Timothy Thatcher is the interim champion for Pete Dunne, and maybe this leads to a storyline later on. The fact that they did not announce Thatcher as the interim champion tells me that Riddle and Thatcher are going to be losing those belts sooner than later. But they did this segment today, with the Newly Bros show, and basically, they're trying to see if Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle, know anything about each other. Byron Saxton asks Thatcher, do you own a TV? No, I don't own a TV. Basically he's asking Thatcher questions. Thatcher's supposed to answer it, and Matt Riddle writes it down on some type of chalkboard and sees if how well does he know his tag team partner. So Byron Saxton asks him about a TV. I don't own a TV. What's your favorite show? I don't watch TV. Would you buy a TV? Well, maybe if the price is right. I got it right. He wrote The Price is Right. Then they're talking about something, Thatcher wrestled in a laundromat, and it was a three-way, and Matt Riddle wrote, what did he write? Threesome? Washer? It was corny, but, at least we had Aichner and Barthel attack both of these guys, and this is going to set up their match coming up very, very soon. Again, I think the fact that they're not doing the interim champion with Thatcher, and they're pretty much announcing him, even though Riddle's the one holding the belts. And Thatcher is extremely talented. Don't misconstrue that, but I'm just not feeling that. Carmelo, I'll get into your main roster. I know a lot of people don't like when you say it that way. The Raw and the SmackDown a little bit later. But, so we got that match leading up, and I think Thatcher and Riddle will lose those belts soon. I know I'm going a little bit backwards, but I'm giving you the match results. Isiah Swerve Scott beating El Hijo del Fantasma. So Fantasma goes 1-1. Isiah Swerve Scott goes 1-0, I believe. I actually have the updated, records for this interim cruiserweight championship. But I tell you, Isiah Swerve Scott and El Hijo del Fantasma, when he was King Cuerto, they had some matches in Lucha Underground. I went back and I looked at a couple really, really quickly tonight before I was preparing, just to see how Scott has improved since then. And although Isiah Swerve Scott has improved a little bit, if anybody goes back and watches this match today, Isiah Swerve Scott looks like, and maybe it's a little unfair because of who he's facing. He's facing King Cuerno. But he looks like, I know this is an outdated reference, but you don't even have to picture a record. But if you listen to a song on the radio and it sounds a little slower than what it should be, that's what Isiah Swerve Scott looks like to me when he has some of these matches. And tonight, it was on full display with El Hijo del Fantasma. Isiah Swerve Scott is a little slow in some of his execution. You go back, watch it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And a lot of the matches in Lucha Underground, King Cuerno dominated. And there's a reason behind that because, Isiah Swerve Scott is very talented, but he's nowhere on that level. And they tried to balance it out today. And I don't want to sell Scott that short, but you could see if you look at the execution, even some of the, back and forth that he was doing with Fantasma today, he was a little too slow, in my opinion. But hey, it was a fun match nonetheless. Candace LeRae beating Casey Catanzaro. Gargano made me laugh in this match because Gargano was giddy. I think giddy would probably be the best way to put it because Candace LeRae is just dominating. She beats Catanzaro. She beats her up after the match. She taunts her afterwards. And Gargano, unfortunately, I can't lay on the floor over here. But if you just picture Gargano laying across the mat on his stomach, and he's got his hands like this, and the back of his feet are going up in the air like a girl that has a crush on a guy, and she's waiting for his phone call, or she just got off the phone. I have no problem with Candace LeRae's look. I'm not thrilled about the hair color, but she stands out a little bit different. They're trying to get them over as, these smug, cocky heels. And look, I like my M&Ms without peanuts, but because they are a good-looking couple, because Gargano has the look, she has the looks, that they look classy, they look like this smug couple that you would just want to slap across the face. That's what they're trying to do. And I don't know about a wannabe Joker and Quinn. I don't know if I would go to that extent. To me, they just come off as, privileged, cocky assholes. And I'm just talking about characters. I'm not talking about them personally. But Damian Priest, I want people to go back, look at the promo he cut earlier this night. Some people might think I'm nuts. Please look at it before you say anything. But I've been singing the praise for Damian Priest for a long time now. Damian Priest cut a promo early in the night to hype up his match with Keith Lee. And if you go back and you look at that promo, you look closely at Damian Priest's face, not just the round glasses, but if you look at his face and you listen to his voice, I'm telling you, when I first say this, people are going to be like, you're fucking nuts. Are you crazy? I'm telling you, if you look at it back, you're going to say, DT, you actually are right. Go back and watch Priest's promo. He looks like a Puerto Rico or Latino version of Roman Reigns. He looked like Roman a little bit. He sounded like Roman a little bit. No Anthony Diaz, I don't take my M&Ms with peanuts. But telling you, go back and look at that promo that Damian Priest cut tonight early on. Looked a little bit, sounded a little bit like Roman Reigns. Telling you, watch it. I have a feeling a bunch of you are going to say, yeah, I actually see that. Now, we mentioned at the beginning of the show Keith Lee versus Damian Priest, It was a good match. To me, it felt a little bit rushed. I don't think there was any doubt that Keith Lee was going to retain. It was not a bad match, but for me, the match that I enjoyed the most tonight, Phil, the promoter, I think he also said the Roman Reigns thing, so I got to give him a little credit for that too. But Drake Maverick versus Tony Nese. The storyline is getting put together exactly how we talked about last week. The odds are stacked against Drake Maverick. 0-1, cannot afford to lose a second match. That he's going to be up against the wall. He's going to snap, get a win, possibly two, maybe even go on to the finals. Either goes on to the finals and then loses, and then maybe that's it. He wins, turns on the fans. We don't know where it's going to go from here. But again, why people are just so dense. We've had wrestlers finish out their contracts in the 80s, the 70s, the 90s. Sure, you can't compare 70s and 80s to today. But the 90s, the 2000s, they finish out their contracts. They get jobbed out. They're losing to different people. Contract is not being renewed. Person does not want to stay. Not everybody gets released on bad terms. People do finish out their contracts. I always brought up. I brought up 2 weeks ago. Razor Ramon and Diesel. Razor Ramon, when Vince knew that they were signing with WCW, they didn't just go off TV and live out the remainder of 6 weeks of their contract, not wrestling at all. It's not the first time. So Drake Maverick being put in the storyline, we don't know what the outcome is. It's not predictable. If people thought it was so predictable, then tell me, geniuses. Tell me, how far does he go in the tournament? Seriously, you don't know. And the fact that you don't know is a good thing. I hope the guy stays. I hope if the guy turns heel and says that we all fell for it, just remember, you may not see the wink, but if he says we all fell for it, he's basically saying we all fell for it. When the cameras are rolling, it's entertainment. They don't owe you a real life explanation while the cameras are rolling. Think you know on the outside what the truth is when it happens. But Drake Maverick gets the win today. I'm not going to lie. When Drake Maverick climbed the rope towards the end, when I think Tony Nese attempted the 450 and Drake Maverick stopped him, when Drake Maverick climbed that rope, this was right after he did the original, the acid drop that Spike Dudley used to do. When he climbed that top rope again and Tony Nese was laid out and it took a little bit longer, I said to myself, shit. Tony Nese is going to move out of the way. Drake Maverick's going to sell pain. And then Tony Nese is going to climb the ropes, get the win, over. Thank God it didn't happen that way. Drake Maverick gets the win. So now the record for those that are interested is, let's make this a little bigger. This is the current record. Not too impressive, right? Not too impressive. Tozawa, you get squashed on Raw. The ramen noodle head, you get squashed on Raw, so he does not feel like a factor to me. Jake Atlas, to me, I would be pretty amazed if they turned Jake Atlas heel and Jake Atlas costs Drake Maverick's career in the WWE. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Jake Atlas, they're trying to play off that he's sympathetic to Drake Maverick. Jake and Drake. Say that fast 10 times. Drake and Jake. Sounds like a candy. I'm going to have a Drake and Jake. But, the records don't look all that impressive right now. And next week, let's see what happens. I guess Jake Atlas is going to fight Kushida. And, you know what? If Jake Atlas fights Kushida, then somebody is going to be 2-0. And that's pretty impressive. Then it may, what could happen? Next week, Kushida could beat Jake Atlas, and that makes Kushida 2-0. Then Drake Maverick may have to fight Kushida, and it's do or die. Then if Maverick wins, he'll be 2-1. But then the problem is, if you look at the way these records are right now, you might end up having everybody almost even records. So, maybe it ends up in like a 4-way or a 5-way. So, I kind of feel bad because he shouldn't have had to do like a super chat for it. But, I got to give this guy credit too. King of Swan style. He also said that Damian Priest looks and sounds like Roman Reigns, especially tonight. Looks and sounds like Roman Reigns. So, yeah, absolutely, man. I'm telling you. It's, look, they're not going to, that was just, I think, coincidental. They're not trying to make a Latino Roman Reigns. His look is similar. You know what I compare that to? For some reason, people will take Mansoor and Ali and Seth Rollins. Oh, they all look like brothers. Why? Because they have dark hair, beard, a little bit longer, similar physique. None of them look anything like each other. So I kind of like compare it to that. But no, I will say that. Yeah, no. That doesn't even make sense. Damian Priest does give me a lot of Razor Ramon vibes. Absolutely. looks like Dominik Dijakovic might end up feuding with Gargano because Dijakovic took exception to what Gargano said last week. I have no problem with that. I think Gargano versus Dijakovic would be fun. Candace LeRae, I think WWE's going to realize, right? See, because I keep seeing people online saying that, oh, Candace LeRae, Johnny Gargano, Karrion Kross, Scarlett Bordeaux, you don't have that many couples in NXT. So Candace LeRae, right now, her and Gargano are together, healing it up, trying to establish their characters. But sooner or later, Candace LeRae's got to start going out there on her own, in my opinion. So, we'll see what happens. But, I don't think, did I leave anything out tonight with NXT? I don't believe so. Again, it was not a bad card. I enjoyed it. Now, as far as ratings go, I haven't decided yet. Towards the end of the show, I'll decide what the ratings I think will be for this week. Now, last week, at the end of Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite, my predictions were that AEW regains the win after 2 weeks of NXT. I said AEW would get 703,000 viewers. NXT would get 687. Pretty close. I said 703 for AEW. AEW ended up getting 731. I predicted 687 for NXT. They got 665. So it was pretty close. NXT today was not a bad show, but it did feel like it was lacking in a few things. So as I'm talking right now, I'm starting to feel AEW definitely gets the win again this week. Maybe my mind changes by the end of the show. The match placement was a little bit odd. I would have probably rather have had Cody versus Darby Allin as the main event, but they needed Cody to hug Dustin at the end because you go off the I must break you. So that's why they did what they did. The more I think about it, I enjoyed AEW more this week than NXT. Yeah, the more I think about it. AEW tonight, man, again, I already talked about Cody versus Darby Allin. Great match, went 20 minutes, but I don't know what they were thinking when that coffin dropped. I could see if Darby Allin at least tried to kick out and was moving his legs, like wobbling like a fish, and he couldn't break the pin, but he just laid there, and I could, to me, it fell flat. And again, the idea of having a TNT tournament final at a pay-per-view and not TNT, to me, it's just asinine. But great match nonetheless. Why we got another segment, albeit very quick, of Scorpio Sky, I don't know. I'm a fan of Scorpio Sky. I like his work. But we had a segment last week. Why they had to bring it up again, I don't know. He's not fighting for the heavyweight title right now. He didn't even have a match today. I just don't know what the purpose of that was. MJF from the Rats Estate of Massapequa, that his hangnail is healed and he is stronger than before, but he had a little bit of a neck brace. But he is going to be back next week, which will be fun. Looks like some people who had a little bit of a respite will be back. By the way, I need to mention this before we go further. It was great to hear Mauro Ranallo and Beth Phoenix tonight. I stress here. You might remember 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, I said WWE's rotating a lot of people every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. Mauro Ranallo included. Beth Phoenix included. They did this show and next week's show. So after next week, let's see. Mauro Ranallo commentates the following week. He might not. But it was very smart to bring in Ranallo and Beth Phoenix for this one, for the simple reason that they are recording next week. Either they did it today or they're doing it tomorrow. Because you want Mauro Ranallo on commentary for those big matches. Some big matches announced for next week. You want Mauro Ranallo on that commentary. You don't want fucking Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips. So, Anyway, Wardlow beating Musa, nothing really there. But to me, as far as non-wrestling goes, man, was that Manitoba Melee fun or what? They're doing the bubbly bunch and all that. And last week it was the flim flam. And I'm not going to do the dance now and everything. Espinosa, I will definitely bring up Dark Side of the Ring in a couple of minutes. Trust me, my brother, I have this. This is something I could watch on loop for years and years and years. I will always remember, we can mention it quickly now. For anybody that, did not see this week's Dark Side of the Ring, they featured Dr. D David Schultz, not once, but twice slapping John Stossel. I remember when that happened, and what I always remember from it is Mr. Fuji smiling in the background. Now, granted, this video quality is not all that great. It's more of like a screen grab, but man, you watch this in better quality, especially the footage from back then that was on the news. Mr. Fuji had a grin on his face in the background. He fucking loved that. And they sent Dr. D out there to take care of Stossel. Look, I'm not a big fan of Dark Side of the Ring. To me, I think sometimes they exaggerate things. I think sometimes they try to rewrite a little bit of history. But I enjoyed yesterday's show, mainly because it just, it brought back memories. It was just reminiscing of yesteryear. Now, look, slapping someone upside the head twice and the guy suing and getting almost $500,000 at that time, claiming that he had ringing in his ear and this and that. I never liked John Stossel. When he claimed later on that he had no idea that Dr. D apologized, he had no idea, and he thought later on that maybe he shouldn't have sued because, the people, that took money. John, the fuck out of here. Seriously, Stossel, you're on my YouTube channel now. I have that clip from 85. You could watch it. Just look up SNME, abbreviation for Saturday Night's Main Event. Look at the video that I have on my YouTube channel, from my own personal video collection that I taped off the TV myself in the middle 80s. At that time, all the TV shows, the talk shows, non-wrestling shows, is wrestling fake. They kept saying fake, 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 fake. And I'll never forget when Buddy Roberts took this older guy from Channel 9 News and put him in a figure 4 and tore this fucking guy's ligaments. Nobody ever talks about that. I loved it. I loved it because every time I heard someone from Entertainment Tonight or 2020 or a news show and they used the term fake, it pissed us off at the time. We knew it, but we didn't want to believe that it was fake. But they would always say the word fake. This was at the time when Hogan, put the sleeper hold on Richard Belzer, which happened to happen on my birthday, by the way. And, Belzer got his head split open. Then you see, like, news stations would ask Hogan and Mr. for WrestleMania. Yeah, I agree, Espinoza. He tried to, play niceties at the end. I'm sorry about that. What the hell did I just do? Here we go. Sorry about that. But let me see. I gotta catch up on the super chats a little bit because some people, put. Let's see. Shout out to boys in Miami. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah. What was that phrase, Espinoza? What were you saying at the time? You kept saying something that I got a kick out of. You used the phrase over and over again. Was it Miami? But you kept saying something when we were at Lucky 13. I hung out with Espinoza last year. It was myself, Draper, Numbers, Mish, Solomonster showed up, Shaheen, Nuclear Graphics. And I'm talking about Dark Side of the Ring now. And yeah, he tried to, Stossel tried to come across hard at the end and saying shit. But honestly, Stossel gets no sympathy, man. That guy sued and got almost $500,000. And, you know, this is the thing that a lot of people don't think about. This is around WrestleMania time. You've seen many times in the past where they talk about how, you know, Vince had almost no money for WrestleMania, and WrestleMania 1, if it didn't work, he'd be out of business, this and that. You also add in the fact, you know, that Snuka with the wrongful death of Nancy Argentino and a lawsuit there. And then you have what happened with Stossel and Dr. D, and you have these clouds over your promotion. You have to worry about legal stuff. You know, these were very big deals as well. King of impersonations. Yes, that's right, Miss Espinosa. That's right. But, you know, the thing is that a lot of people to this day feel that Dr. D got let go from the WWF not because of the Stossel incident, but because he almost fought Mr. T backstage. And I know some people try to cloud that. Some people try to make claims. You know, people have different interpretations. All of these years, I always felt that the stuff with Mr. T led more to Dr. D's release than anything else. And the one thing that I will say that I thought failed a little bit yesterday with Dark Side of the Ring, when they did Brawl for All, and I had all these people like, oh, look, it ruined Bart Gunn's career. He was never the same, and this and that. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to bring up the whole thing again, but come on, man. Bart Gunn was already 34 years old, and he was already in a lull. And listen to Shawn Michaels' commentary that night when he knocked out JBL. And this kind of revitalized Bart Gunn's career. Bart Gunn was not on the road to another championship reign in the tag team division or any other division in the WWF at the time if Brawl for All never happened. But they have to, you know, make it look that way. Now think of this. Bart Gunn, 34 years old when Brawl for All happened. How old Dr. D was with this incident with Stossel? 28. Or he was let go when he was 28. Dr. D, almost out of wrestling before age 30. Who kind of got the raw deal out of this? You know, look, Dr. D, a lot of it from his own doing. But, you know, he is the original redneck. He's the original rattlesnake. He is the original Stone Cold. I've been saying that for fucking 20 years doing this stuff. He is the original, yeah. Vince went to you ruined it, damn it! You ruined it! Dr. D ruined his career. I mean, look, he, you know, did the bail bondsman stuff, and Dr. D was always one of my favorites, man. You go back to This Week in Wrestling History that I was doing. You notice now, do you notice this, everybody? Because I notice it. 2 years ago, when I did season 1 of This Week in Wrestling History, the following year, I did season 2, and almost nobody online was talking about history. I think maybe one Twitter account did, and maybe someone talked about This Week in WWE Network history. But now I see all of these goofs putting all these history things all over the place. I'm like, man, 2 years ago, where were all you people? You could have helped me with a lot of research here, but you go back to my history show 2 years ago and listen to my praise for Dr. D. And remember the second, you know, I slap you upside your head, woman. Are you some type of goof? I think I got the term goof, because you hear me say goofs all the time. I honestly think that when Dr. D always used to use the word goof, I think I got it from him. Are you some type of goof? What am I, stupid? You some type of goof? Woman! My God. And you know what's sad? I know a lot of people out there right now watching this or hearing this probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Look up Dr. D at home, WWF. Look at that segment with his wife and his kids. Threatening to slap his kids, threatening to slap his wife, throwing shit around. What are you, some type of goof? Then his promo in AWA, he's supposed to fight Hulk Hogan in California, and he's like, I went to San Francisco. I didn't see no woman. I see men dressed up as women. Hulk, you don't go with a woman. See, I can't do it. I never did impersonation of Dr. D, but the goof thing, what are you, some type of goof? You can't say goof. You got to say goof. What are you, some type of goof? Fucking love Dr. D, man. Original Stone Cold. Original. I've been saying that 20 plus years. So I enjoyed the episode yesterday because it brought back a lot of memories. And again, you don't want to ever see someone get slapped. But man, that goof deserved to be slapped, man. Oh, my God. You know, I mentioned on Twitter earlier, I'm going to expand this channel very, very soon. And it seems like a lot of you out there want more than anything reaction videos and reviews. And trust me, in a perfect world, I got to get my VHS tapes from the mid-'80s because I got the original articles and the stories when John Stossel got slapped from David Schultz. In fact, that may actually be a tiny little clip in my YouTube thing I was telling you about earlier. But man, I got to do a reaction video when John Stossel got slapped. You know, you see these people, and you know, it's funny because I laugh at them, but I realize, like with YouTube, you see somebody's channel, they're hyping up a video, like the still shot of their video of whatever they're going to air. It's always like an outrageous look, like they, you know, they have these over the top reactions, but apparently that's what draws people into watching a video. Man, just in slow motion, just slap. Man, Stossel, I have no sympathy for, man. Fuck that guy. Seriously, fuck that guy. So, let's get back to AEW. This week, we have another episode of the Bubbly Bunch. And this time around, this turned into... and it was funny because some people on social media absolutely hated it. To me, it was my favorite part of the entire night as far as non-wrestling goes. In fact, this might be even better than some of the skits that AEW has done in the past. It starts off with Jericho on an exercise bike, fully dressed. Guevara is talking about how his video last week was better than anybody else's, and if they don't like it, they could suck his hand sanitizer. All right, whatever. Then, you know, you see all the members of the inner circle. They're all on their phones. They're kind of talking to each other. And then, out of nowhere, some shit happens where Ortiz, like, pretends to headbutt the phone. And Guevara goes flying. Next thing you know, you got Hager. Then you got Luther. Then all of a sudden, it's like, you know, what's that video that I said... the challenge that I want to do with the podcasters? And did you notice all the goops all in hiding? Just think about that. People in the social media age where everybody's got a camera or a phone, people are still afraid, podcasters, websites, bloggers, they're still afraid to show you what they look like. I mean, seriously, that's pretty pathetic. What was that challenge last week that I wanted to do? Where you like, I'll be just dressed normal, and then you put the phone or something up to the camera, and when you pull back, is it the all-in challenge? Is that it? Well, this is what it felt like today. It was like another version of the all-in challenge, but this time around, like, Ortiz goes to headbutt the camera, and Guevara sells it. Guevara goes to do a move, and then Hager sells it. And then Hager does a move, and the next thing you know, it just goes, okay, the Don't Rush Challenge. Okay, yeah, Eddie, that sounds right. The Don't Rush Challenge. That's what this felt like today. Yeah, Dalvin, nobody did the 10-year challenge, the 20-year challenge, the 30-year challenge, the 5-year challenge. Just in this day and age, seriously, am I exaggerating? You have people out there that write websites or writers for a living, that do shows, they do all this stuff, and they're afraid to show you what they look like. What does that say? Seriously, what does that say? I wanted to do a funny one, a podcast challenge. I had a couple of people step up, but the majority of everybody, no, put their tail between their legs, you know. Yeah, in a Matarazzi challenge. That's right, Kevin. Kevin K, not different Kevin. But anyway, so this challenge, the Don't Rush Challenge, that's what it felt like today, but it fell off the rails like this. And they had like 20 people. And I will admit, some of them I didn't recognize. I had to do my research. I think I have all the names here, but it was funny, man. Come on, that was a funny segment. From what I recalled and did the research in that segment, Ortiz, Guevara, Hager, Luther, Peter Avalon, Jungle Boy, Sonny Kiss, Virgil, Duff McKagan, Jay and Silent Bob, Brad Williams, Corey Taylor, Gabriel Iglesias, Ted Irvine, Chris Jericho's dad, and Lou Ferrigno. Come on. With a taser? I swear to God, when I first saw it, it was the same thing as Jericho. When Jericho said, "Is that Lou Ferrigno?" That was exactly what I said. I was like, no, that looks like Lanny Poffo. Is that Lou Ferrigno or is that Lanny Poffo? That's what I thought it was. But my favorite was Vicky Guerrero. I don't know if this is her new catchphrase because she said it 4 or 5 times. She obviously, I don't think she could use "excuse me" anymore. I don't know if WWE owns the rights to that. So instead of saying "excuse me," like she sold that she got hit, and she's looking at the phone and she's like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" You know, you could actually say that many different ways. In fact, you know, when I go back and think about it, she should have did this. She should have been like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" Like you can say different, but that was good, man. That was good. And it's sad, man. You know, Vicky did that interview not too long ago that, you know, WWE just, you know, was not interested in using her for anything, and she wants to do some stuff in wrestling, and simply because she did a little commentating skit on AEW Dark, and like it's like they won't let her have guests on her show. That's tacky, seriously. So it was nice seeing her. But after Vicky, you have Chris Jericho that just stopped everything, and he stopped it because it was awesome. I agree. It was one of the best Manitoba Melees that he's ever been a part of. That was memorable, man. And you know what's funny about this? You kind of see this. I think you're starting to see this. AEW has a better pulse of things on social media than WWE does. Some of the individual wrestlers in WWE know. And when you have the TikTok videos, you'll see Nia doing stuff. You'll see some other people doing stuff. You'll see some wrestlers individually. But as far as WWE goes as a whole, they thought not too long ago that every fucking wrestler in the back should be talking from their camera phone. Remember all those things? You know, the person, and that was before coronavirus. You got crazy-ass production and people in the back with their phone with the horrible video quality doing that. And then what was the best part that everybody forgets about? You remember those fucking Batman-like graphics, you know, hate in big letters. You know, I think you're a fat slob, big letters. I'm going to beat you, giant letters. Remember all those stuff? I'm like, who the fuck came up with that? But you see AEW, you know, all right, you got a couple individual WWE wrestlers doing TikTok videos, but AEW doing the flim-flam stuff and then asking their fans, hey, show us your flim-flam video and we'll add music to it. We'll add this. You got people doing it. You got celebrities doing it. Now they're doing like the Don't Rush Challenge, but they're doing it creative. Everybody gets hit. And they're selling a move. It was funny, man. I loved it. I thought it was excellent. Next, we had Chuck Taylor and Trent beating Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian. No DQ, no countout match. It is what it is. You know, I'm nothing against Kip Sabian, but how AEW thought fans would buy into a possible retirement match of Dustin when he's facing Kip Sabian. AEW sees something in Kip Sabian a lot more than I think a lot of us do. He is talented. Penelope Ford is talented. But I wouldn't put Kip Sabian, if Johnny Gargano and and Candace Lorraine are on this up here, even if the ladder's all the way up here, if they're here right now, there ain't no fucking way that Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford are even near there. And they keep putting all of this focus on Kip Sabian. And again, it's not that, oh, I want to see him get his ass kicked. It just, I think it's somebody sees something, and it may click on later on. But Kip Sabian, man, I'm not feeling it as much as others. It was not a bad match. I'll tell you, there was one interesting part. I don't know if you saw this. There was one part during the match where Jimmy Havoc back body dropped Trent onto a ladder in the corner. Did you guys see that? Now, unfortunately, I cannot post clips up here because I see some podcasters having some problems with WWE and AEW because they're putting up small, even like 2-second clips, and they're getting hit with that. But did you see what happened with the ladder? Jimmy Havoc back body dropped Trent into this ladder. The ladder bent, and when Trent got off the ladder like bent back into place. I have never seen it. It almost looked rubbery. Go back and see what I'm talking about. The ladder literally bent, and it went back into place. It was really, really odd. I mean, it looked cool, but I was like, what the fuck just happened to the ladder? Seriously. I agree, Senor Espinoza. Probably the best that Jimmy Havoc has been featured on TV so far. And I use the term featured because, Jimmy Havoc, he's had some interesting matches. The one that I always remember is the one that Cornette talked about with Joey Janela. I don't like to make fun of Joey Janela. I think Jim Cornette is a little bit too hard on Joey Janela. But Jimmy Havoc I like. Jimmy Havoc I have no problem with. I actually enjoy his work. Some of it's a little over the top sometimes. But best friends are fine. Orange Cassidy getting involved is always fun. The only thing I didn't like today is Orange Cassidy took a brutal chair shot to almost like the face. Orange Cassidy got hit with some stuff tonight. And yet, at the very end, he's sitting in the ring like nothing ever happened. And, it's some of that is a little arcadish to me. But the match was fine. I thought it was okay. It didn't go as long as I hoped it didn't go. I wanted it to go short. It went about 12 minutes or so. But the latter part, really, go back and look at that. Just look at the flexible ladder. I think that's probably where you'll find that. The Britt Baker promo, all right, making fun of Shivani. She don't like snaggletooths, fat people, wannabes, glass wearers, which kind of gets me mad because I think I almost fit all those categories. I don't think I have snaggle teeth, but a different Tony Schiavone, apparently wears them all. The friction between Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone, I think, is a little bit played out, in my opinion. There's no need to keep focusing on Schiavone with this. Just go balls out, man. Just rip the fans. Just keep him out of it. But Britt Baker, look, they're finding their way with her, without a doubt. She's not this awesome wrestler in the ring yet. She broke her cherry, getting her nose busted open or whatever. But, you could see that outside of wrestling, she's likable. And AEW has scaled back a little bit with her, which is smart. Absolutely smart. But I think the stuff with Tony Schiavone, all right, yeah, you did it on the fucking cruise ship. Move on. Sometimes less is more. But not bad. Yeah, Adam Cole's girlfriend. Next, we had the Technique by Taz talking about Lance Archer and the Blackout. And I'm a little confused. Maybe someone could go back and show me how this is physically possible. But Taz is talking about when Lance Archer has the person in the air for the Blackout. And he's talking about how the person is 9 feet in the air. Okay, all right, 9 feet in the air. A foot is about this long, right? About this long. So he says they're 9 feet in the air sometimes 10. Now, I just took a step back and I thought about that for a minute. Now, every single person listening right now, or watching this right now, every single one of you, unless you're an infant, and I don't think infants should be watching or listening to my shit. But if you picture all of us right now, from the neck up or the armpit up, all right, we might all differ in size going this way, but pretty much from the armpit up, we're pretty much the same height. And if you're lifting someone from their armpits and they're 9 feet in the air, how could it possibly go to 10 feet in the air? That's like beyond Elix Skipper neck. You remember Elix Skipper? His neck looked like a Pez dispenser. Like I wanted to push back his neck and candy fall out. How do you go from, if you're lifting someone from here, how do you add an extra foot? You would literally have to have a neck. It's impossible. Impossible. I get it. Everybody's saying people have different size heads and necks. Do you realize a foot? Seriously. You lift a midget up. A foot. Where does the foot come from? It's from here to here. Where do you add the foot? It's like a bad cartoon where you're jacking someone's neck and you're like, oh. I thought it was funny. I thought it was just exaggerated. Look, wrestling is supposed to be exaggerated, especially if you're Hulk Hogan. You know, by the time Hogan dies, Andre the Giant's going to be 950 pounds. But no, seriously, you look at people. Look at this. Look at Marko Stunt, and then look at fucking Brodie Lee. You measure. It's not like Stacy Keibler legs and a regular human being's legs. If you measure the armpit to the top of the head, whether it's Marko Stunt or when someone is 5 foot tall and 6 foot tall, the difference is not from the neck up. Might be 2 or 3 inches, if that. And when people have thick necks, it goes this way. You know, when you wear a suit, when you have a bigger neck, you don't have a collar that goes this high. No, it goes this way. You wrap it around this way. It's not going like this. So anyway, one thing happened today. I fixed it. Sorry about that, everybody. I hit the wrong button. See, believe it or not, I'm still new over here on YouTube. So how much did you see? Let's see. Okay. I could mention it again. I was so happy to see Marko Stunt versus Brodie Lee. Not because I dislike Marko Stunt in any way, shape, or form anymore. I don't need a producer, Jonathan. I got everything on the helm. You get a little blip here and there. It doesn't happen all that often. I'm kind of a little shangada because I have this almost migraine headache right now. Trying not to think about it, but I hit the button by mistake. But as I was saying, the only reason why I enjoy Marko Stunt getting the balls beat out of him right now, especially someone the size of Brodie Lee, is because not Marko Stunt's doing, but when Marko Stunt fought Lance Archer, go back, search social media, Twitter especially, see what I'm talking about. I saw grown-ass adults, a lot of women, but grown-ass adults triggered because how dare AEW have someone the size of Lance Archer beat up someone the size of Marko Stunt? And as I said, but I was muted, I wish they could dig up King Kong Bundy and the Haiti Kid and fucking tie those people to a chair and let Bundy squash him a couple of times. I don't know any individual names, Dalvin, but I saw that written repeatedly, and I'm like, it's people like that I just can't stand. I mean, it's David versus Goliath, and the idea is you're supposed to get angry at Lance Archer because of how big he is and how small Stunt is. It is fucking entertainment, motherfuckers. So I wanted Brodie Lee versus Marko Stunt. I want Luchasaurus ultimately to turn on Marko Stunt and just destroy him. Throw him off a cliff. Not really get hurt, but these people getting triggered because of size is just asinine. They don't deserve to be wrestling fans. But I will say this. I give AEW credit for this match because the match, as quick as it was, you know, they allowed Marko Stunt to get a little bit of O in there. Not only that, Chris Jericho made a comment that I thought was really, really cool. And again, this summarizes what I've been praising about Jericho the last couple of weeks. Not just the energy, but I have said, even last week when I talked about Omega's match against whatever that guy's name was, Jericho made that guy look like $1 million because of how he was reacted to the guy's moves. Jericho, you know, enhances the people that are in the ring. And tonight, Jericho said that if he ever gets in the ring with Marko Stunt, he'll beat his ass. But tonight, he had respect for Marko Stunt for stepping into the ring against Brodie Lee. Now, it's funny because some people online do not like that the Inner Circle are this happy and comical, doing their bubbly bunch segments. They're heels. So they're not supposed to make people happy. And I disagree with that more than anything in this world as a wrestling fan. They're heels, but they're entertaining and they're interacting with fans. And that is something that is a lost art more times than not. You know, just because you respond to someone's tweet doesn't mean that you're really interacting with your fans, you know. And that's one thing that AEW has been doing well. And Jericho is truly the MVP of that company. He, in the ring, he may not be able to do what he used to do, but outside that ring and commentary, he makes every person seem better. The lower names on the card, he acts like he gives a shit. He acts like the people are important. Omega's match last week, and look, I know Meltzer and Satin and Cornette and others, I think, all got in this war about the length of that match and, you know, bringing up matches from yesteryear. You know, I don't think anybody but me, you know, got into it as quick, because I did my recap immediately after AEW went off the air. They got into these wars the next day, the day after that. But that night, I said, I think that match went a couple of minutes too long. But Jericho, and I said this last week, Jericho made that guy's work seem that much more important. And that's what Jericho has been knocking out of the park. And I really enjoyed Jericho's commentary. You don't have to just come up with memorable phrases that people will remember, calling him pumpkinhead dipshit or whatever it is. But when Jericho even makes that little sign of respect for Marko Stunt, even though he's a heel, that was a wonderful thing. I thought it was great. Sean Spears beating Baron Black with C4 was fine. It was a very quick match. Sean Spears, even Jericho tonight with Sean Spears. Jericho said something like, "Oh, Sean Spears is a different man after, you know, the TNT tournament with Cody." And when you think about it, you know, does that really make sense? You know, Sean Spears has been losing bets. He's still looking for a tag team partner. So, but Jericho just makes him sound more important. So, Moxley, tonight we saw him on video. He will be back live next week, and as I said earlier, he's going to take on Frankie Kazarian. Cut a promo in some, area. I don't know if it was near train tracks or whatever. I don't know, but it was, a nice backdrop, solitary, by himself. And he was talking about how it was only 2 months ago when he won the title and, indirectly bringing up coronavirus and what's going on. And he said, sooner than later, fans will be back live and he'll be cursing and bleeding and defending the title. And he was talking about things that he was thankful for. And he mentioned his wife, didn't mention her by name, but he said he's thankful for his wife who puts up with him, with him right now with everything that's going on. And he was thankful, for other things as well. And he said next week he's going to throw Metallica and some CDs in the truck. And he's coming out east, technically southeast. And he is going to be fighting next week. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a fun night for AEW next week. The main event, which was Lance Archer beating Cody, we talked about it earlier. There's really nothing for me to add to it. Early on, Dustin got busted open a little bit, and Lance Archer was dominating. I never thought there was any shot of Dustin winning this. And I said it last week too, and I mentioned it earlier as well. When you tease a retirement out of nowhere, we have the RKO out of nowhere. This is the retirement out of nowhere. If I don't beat Kip, I'm retiring. Put your money where your mouth is. If I don't win this fucking tournament, I'm retiring. If I don't advance to the finals, I'm retiring. If I don't beat Archer, I'm retiring. When the minute that retirement, and all that retirement stuff was to try to increase interest in the show. That's all it was. And, unfortunately, I don't think it did as much as what AEW thought it would. Again, why would anybody tease a retirement against Kip Sabian? It's too low on the food chain as of right now. But anyway, they're teasing Dustin, getting hammered early, and he's busted open, and Archer is dominating. Dustin gets some offense back, and one point, climb the top rope, which you rarely see Dustin do anymore. But the one move that stood out to me tonight more than anything, Lance Archer. Let's see Undertaker do this. And I know that's unfair to say, but Lance Archer climbs the top rope. Let's see Mike Jackson do this. Anybody that knows why I say Mike Jackson, you're paying attention. But Lance Archer climbs the turnbuckle, goes to the top rope, walks across the top rope, and doesn't jump off with the punch to the shoulder like Undertaker does. No. He turns around and does a fucking moonsault. A moonsault. That is insane. I saw that move. I was like, please, AEW, replay that. Please. And it took them a couple of extra seconds to do so. They should have replayed that 4 or 5 different times. That was insane. But Lance Archer is impressive, man. Suddenly the absence of Jake Roberts, not much with the, like we saw a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not even talking about live and in person, but, it feels like that they're slowly maybe distancing Jake Roberts and Lance Archer. I'm not saying it's the end of the two as a pair, but you see slowly and, and at the same time, though, I know AEW got heat a couple of weeks ago that you had Tully Blanchard there live in the middle of coronavirus. Jake Roberts there live in the middle of coronavirus. Jim Ross was there for a little while in the middle of coronavirus. Let's see how many of them return next week and the week after. So, but I tell you, it was not a bad episode of AEW. It was not a bad episode of NXT either. But unfortunately for me, NXT, it just, it didn't keep my interest as much as the last 2 weeks. There were some names notably absent. They really milked this carrying cross stuff the last 2 weeks. I mean, the vignette is nice and everything, but the minute he attacked Ciampa, this should have been, Ciampa should have opened the next fucking show. I'm not leaving this ring until this guy comes out. I mean, it just feels like I know they're trying to spread this stuff out and milk it a little bit more, but man, it just feels like they lost a little momentum. But again, I think NXT regains some momentum next week. NXT, it's going to be a very important week for them next week. That rating next week is going to be really interesting. But this week, I think AEW keeps the win. I'm going to go with AEW with 668,000 viewers. Am I a little low on that? I'll say 678. NXT 651. That's what I'm going to go with. AEW is going to be live next week for everybody who is asking. To Mr. Espinoza, do I think AEW cursing on camera has caused WWE to add more vulgar language? No, I don't think so. I just think, look, WWE has cursed a little bit once in a while in the past as well. Cursing once or twice does not get me to watch a show a little bit more. Hell, they said bullshit on Raw, and it turned out to be one of the lowest rated Raw in its history. I mean, that should tell you something right there. I mean, just using an expletive, I don't think, really helps all that much, to be honest with you. I have to mention this gentleman because he posted it earlier, Carmelo. He wants the smoke. He wants the dirt from either The Undertaker or the Styles match, or dirt from yours truly. I talked about that plaque on Monday, that Undertaker plaque for $75. I don't think it's a big deal. $75 for the plaque was a little bit too much in my opinion. But, for people out there making a big deal about this dirt situation, I'll say this. They cut shirts and put it in plaques. They cut a piece of the turnbuckle, put it in plaques. They cut a piece of the ring canvas, put it in plaques. It's no different. So this is a little capsule of dirt. Big deal. I remember when Yankee Stadium closed down and Shea Stadium closed down, they were selling dirt from the field. It's more of just like a little memory than anything else. I don't think it was that big of a deal. So, with that said, before we close it out, I want to finish up the remaining 7 minutes talking about Velveteen Dream. Now, remember last week I talked for 30 minutes about Velveteen Dream. And by the way, again, everybody, if you're around Friday night, 10:05, right after SmackDown, join me here. Mish will likely be here as well. I'm going to post a receipt, by the way, for the donations, the money we raised about a month ago. I'm going to post a receipt tomorrow. I did donate yesterday. And looks like we'll be doing the One Chip Challenge, and we'll get into all your questions, chat, super chat, everything. So Friday, we're going to probably go, it might be a 3-hour banger, so we'll see what happens. But I want to finish up the remaining 6 minutes here with Velveteen Dream. Last Wednesday on this show, I talked 30 minutes about it. I got into the whole thing about the chats that were claiming online that he did. If you want to be reminded, this was the major controversy that people were claiming. In addition to the photo, people were making a big deal because this was posted.
What school do you go to? What school do you go to?
As if college people never went to school before. I mean, oh my God, he asked what school do you go to? Pedophile alert. Well, like I said, if you looked at some of the screenshots, and I mentioned this on Monday as well, if you zoomed in far enough, anybody out there that's ever photoshopped something, when you Photoshop something and you don't use the same pixels, the same size, like if you want to Photoshop a head from one photo and put it on another photo, the photo has to be the same size. When you take a screenshot of a phone and then you take another screenshot of another phone, but that file size, that picture size is smaller, you might be able to resize something on there to match, but it diminishes quality. And the more you zoomed in on some of this stuff, you start seeing this outline of a pixelated outline that you could see that someone is copying and pasting it somewhere. But last week when we talked about it, it went from that we don't know if it was him, we don't know if he got hacked. Then Velveteen Dream makes a statement online telling everybody, look, I didn't do any of this stuff. Somebody got my picture. And instead of those people saying, oh, okay, Velveteen Dream, he went public and he said it wasn't him, you give him the benefit of the doubt. But what happened was when you had people early on saying, I think he might have been hacked, and then he says that wasn't him, it immediately turned into, no, we're not accepting that. Police report filed, yup. That's what it was. They got angry at his denial. And one thing, and I thank my friends in Canada that checked it out. I checked out Florida myself, and I want to thank my friend John who checked out Washington. We took every area where this police report could have been filed. And guess what? After 7 days, there are no record of someone filing a police report and a criminal complaint, a cyber complaint, that someone, an adult, 20-something years old, sent a nude photo to minors. There's no complaint anywhere. And what happens is, you got to understand this. You're dealing with people who are 15, 16, and 17. Not that much experience online. And I don't think they understood how deep forensics can go with this, how things could be tracked. And, they'll post a picture of his dick, but they won't post his phone number. They'll post the screenshot of him completely naked, but they won't show the screenshot of him asking for nudes or offering the nudes. Instead, somebody comes back and says, oh, I have more proof for everyone, and this is going to prove it to everybody, and then this came out. I want to share this with everybody. Check this out. Now, what I did was, the video that's online is backwards. I reversed the video so you could see it in real time. This was the alleged conversation that he had with a 16-year-old. And if you look through this conversation, the kid is talking about how he wants to become a commentator, and Velveteen Dream asks him what he looks like. Kid posts this picture, if this was a legit conversation, and the kid is from Ontario, and Velveteen Dream is basically saying that WWE hires people, like looks are a big deal, and talking about, getting into shape and having a physique and, some of the things you need to do. But if you look at this conversation, there is nothing sexual about this conversation at all. Nothing. And basically what it feels like is, now look, if this conversation is real, Velveteen Dream should not be chatting with a 16-year-old at 3 o'clock in the morning, no matter what the topic is. But basically, Velveteen Dream, if this is a true thing, he's like, look, get into shape, and this is and that, stick to yourself, and you might be able to do something. But that's where it gets cut off. If you look at this conversation again, this conversation gets cut off. Now, this is the full video. I'm not touching it. I'm not altering it. You see it where they're talking about, now, if this guy was going to send nudes, offer nudes, or try to talk sexual, why would you shut the video off right there? So everything online, to me, is very suspect. Things don't add up. It doesn't pass the smell test for me. But I just wanted to show everybody that. So look, I'm going to get out of here now because we're hit the 2-hour mark, and I definitely don't want this to cut off. I want everybody to enjoy this from the beginning. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. What school do you go to? So shout out to Anthony and everybody else. So everyone, please send your feedback. Keep spreading the word. I will be back here Friday night once again. We'll go as long as you want us to go. 2 hours, 3 hours, we'll have a ball. Any questions from tonight, any feedback, definitely get your stuff together. Be prepared to ask them on Friday, and we'll have an awesome show. So everyone, much love. Take care. Ciao.